If you're ready to explore the Hebrew roots of your Christian faith, then grab your Bible and let's get started. Shabbat Shalom, and welcome back to the Sabbath day teaching on today. I most definitely am very excited as we are going through the Book of Ruth. For those of you who will follow me on Instagram and the other social media outlets, I'm hoping that you notice that we entered into the 10th biblical month. Now, this 10th biblical month does not have any annual appointed feast from Yehovah according to Leviticus chapter 23. And I do know many of you do honor Hanukkah, and there's nothing wrong with honor Hanukkah because that's a victory won over war. But for the 10th biblical month, we have that monthly um, new moon celebration, and then we have the weekly Sabbath. So all of those are feasts. So every month there's a feast, and then every week there is a feast. So the Sabbath day is a feast. Just keep that in mind. So again, this is the 10th month of Jehovah's calendar and the 12th month of the Gregorian calendar. Now, since we're heading to a new year, according to the Gregorian calendar, this means we are getting prepared for season 4 of what Yeshua teach, what Yeshua had taught. So this might be a good time to start watching season 3 as we can prepare for season 4. I'm very excited and looking forward for season 4, and I hope you are as well. Today, we are focused on the Book of Ruth, chapter 3. And today, we are really going to dive in. We're going to understand a little deeper understanding, I say, for the kinsman redeemer. Welcome to Reconcile the Kingdom, where we're working towards growing in the harmony of the whole with the truth. My name is Patrice Robinson, and I greatly appreciate every last one of you who's joining me on this live premiere. And of course, those who will be joining me on the replay. I most definitely am greatly appreciative of this. Um, if this is your first time visiting, I want to take the time out and say thank you for allowing me to be in front of you. The 50th time, 300 time, 400 time, which meaning I want to thank all returning subscribers. I greatly appreciate you. So I want to take the time to say thank you. And that if you have not subscribed, you are ready to join this family that does not mind searching in scriptures. A family does not mind challenging the religious systems, teachings that we have been under for hundreds of years. A family who is ready to dedicate themselves as a lifetime student of the Bible. You have to be a student of the Bible. A family that's ready to explore the Hebrews of the Christian faith, and it's easy to join this family. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button below. And of course, don't forget that bell because the bell lets you know when I'm live, any announcements or any updates that will be coming from this ministry. And of course, that is not the only way that you can support this ministry. You can support this ministry by making comments in the comment box, asking questions, sharing your thoughts, all those type of things of interaction is supporting the ministry. Share the link when you're live, share the link when you're on the replay, and don't forget that important part, giving me a thumbs up. If you are learning something, if you're getting some insight, you're getting some understanding from the biblical content that I'm sharing with you, you should give me a thumbs up. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Spotify, and of course, YouTube podcast, and shop in the digital online shop. Digital online shop still has about 49 items inside of it. It's most definitely available for individual workbooks, forms, and some free items that's there for you to help you on this journey. You cannot do this journey alone. You need a support system, and you need to have something before you to organize your thoughts and things that's going on as you are studying. This is the very reason why I created all these items available for those who are exploring the Hebrews of your Christian faith. Donate in the love drawer. Donating in the love drawer, that's you supporting the ministry. That's you partnership with me. That's you help me to grow the ministry and do all the back end and the front end of the ministry. I greatly appreciate all of you who do support the ministry, who shop in the online shop, who subscribe, who comments, who share the links and everything like that. I most definitely am greatly appreciative of you. Everything that we just spoke about when it comes to supporting ministry, you can find that in the description box below, and you can take a look at that as we are going through the teaching. And of course, during the replay, you're able to take a look at those things. Don't forget, at the end of the teaching today, you're able to ask questions. You're able to ask questions about the information that's presented to you today. I encourage you making comments respectfully, even if you don't agree. I encourage you to share the link. I encourage you to share your thoughts and all those things to interact with me. There are many ministries who will not give you an opportunity to ask questions live. I'm available live and I'm available during the replay to address those questions that you may have. Now, once again, we are in the book of Ruth. I'm very excited about this study itself. Many people, denomination, non-denominational religious systems, do not go into the Old Testament, the Tanakh, because it's difficult for them to teach Yeshua, Jesus for some, in the Old Testament. And it's not. But we are learning more and more as we are going through the book of Ruth, how Ruth is so much related and understanding of the Messiah. You have to be able to understand that he's in the book of Ruth, especially when we get into the fourth chapter. You will recognize that even more. But however, we are now are going to go forward with the key points, the understanding of everything that we covered in chapter 2 of Ruth. So I'm going to bring my sheet up, and this sheet is most definitely for Ruth chapter 2. And you see, I had a lot to say, and I try to narrow it down so that we can most definitely make it brief. So, Ruth chapter 2. When you go into chapter 2, in the very beginning, the first couple of verses, the writer is getting you prepared. He's giving you some background about the person who Ruth is going to be meeting, and that is Boaz. Boaz is a kinsman of the bloodline of Elimelech. So he is very much can be a kinsman redeemer as we continue to learn. So there was no accident that Ruth ends up in Boaz's field. This is the hand of the Father all through Ruth's life if we don't recognize that. So Ruth found favor with Boaz, and as she was known about her deeds towards Naomi and her husband, how loyal, her kindness, and how respectful that she was. She was very dedicated to making sure that Naomi was taking care of her mother-in-law. So Boaz, Ruth can understand why she's getting so much favor from him, but he reminds her of how committed she has been, how she came to this unknown land, serving Yehovah and learning how to live according to his instructions. So Ruth was not only blessed because she accepted Yehovah as her Elohim, but she also trusted in him. How did she trust in him? Because the things that Naomi, who was discipling Ruth, teaching her the ways of Yehovah, she began to trust those things and move forward in her life, demonstrated those things as we will continue to recognize. So the insight, the application, Naomi at this point, a light bulb comes on for her. She's able to recognize that Yehovah didn't cut her off. He's been guiding her because they found who? Boaz, a kinsman, which at the time that she was going through, she was not thinking about that at all. So again, we learned how Yeshua is the kinsman redeemer because he came for the children of Israel. First, he came to that lost sheep. So everyone was lost and under the tradition of men. I really love the fact that we starting to understand how Jehovah set his kingdom, his instructions, his constitution to care for the poor, the strangers, the fatherless, and the widows through one way, the third year tithe. And there's other examples as we get through the Torah that we'll be able to recognize how he's been taking care of his people, how he is dedicated to his people of keeping that covenant. So far, we covered two areas of the kinsman redeemer. The redeemer as being he is related to the person or the people, and he's able to pay the price of redemption. So we would kind of go more and deeper in that today because of my question as I was going through Ruth chapter 2. Where are the scriptures about the kinsman redeemer? How do we learn about this kinsman redeemer if there are no scriptures for us to go by? So we will cover that in Ruth chapter 3 on today. There's the cross reference that I share with you and the word study that we have available for Ruth chapter 2. And of course, I will leave my sheet up to encourage you to share your key points, to share your applications or insights, your questions, any cross reference that you have found that I have not shared, or any word study. So this is the whole purpose of is integrating, engaging with each other to make sure that we are learning from each other. So make sure you have your Bible before you, all the writing utensils that you need, your workbook or your work sheet, your form, or a piece of paper, because we're focused on Ruth chapter 3, and we're going to look and see if there's any other connections in any other writings, any other letters that we have to bring in to understand Ruth chapter 3 on your own. You most definitely should be using your tools. You should be using your Strongs, your Bible Dictionary, Bible Hub, Bible Gateway, logos, whatever you need to get an understanding of these chapters that we're going through verse by verse. So we're going to go straight into Ruth chapter 3. This is a short chapter, so I will not be before you for hours and hours alone, which I try not to be anyway. Verse 1. Then Naomi, her mother in law, said unto her, My daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And now it is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maidens thou wast. Behold, he wanteth barley tonight in the threshing floor. Wash thyself therefore, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor. But make not thyself known unto man until he shall have done eating and drinking. And it shall be when he lieth down, that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie, then and thou shalt go in and uncover his feet and lay thee down, and he will tell thee what thou should do. And she said unto her, All that thou sayest unto me, I will do. Again, Naomi is most definitely discipling Ruth, showing her what the instructions are, what you should do as she is living among the children of Israel. Naomi is trying to ensure Ruth's future security for her. Besides, Naomi is getting older. She's not getting any younger. And they're not able to take care of the land, which leaves Ruth consistently gleaning for them to survive. Ruth is young and she's still at childbearing age. So Naomi she gives her the instructions to Ruth about Boaz being a kinsman. So remember, I just want to remind you, she spoke about this several months ago. She let Ruth know that Boaz is the kinsman. And this is during the time that the barley um, was harvested from Passover feast all the way to the Feast of Sukkot, Feast of Weeks. So around that scheduled time. So it's been several months since this has been found out. So she's trying to get her prepared for the next steps of the king being Boaz being the kinsman redeemer, what he should be doing. So she tells her, wash yourself, anoint yourself, put on some perfume, get yourself all dolled up. And so Ruth obeys those instructions. She's willing to be redeemed. She's willing to obey the instructions of Yehovah. Now, some of us, we want to be redeemed, but we don't want to obey. We don't want to obey the instructions that He tells us to follow. He tells us to hear and obey, to Shema. For those of you who do not understand or know about Shema, I encourage you to go ahead and start your own study. And if you put that in, like maybe Blue Letter Bible, it should bring you to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 3. You should go ahead and do your own study to understand what Shema means. However, I want to remind you that again, this has been a few months since they known that Boaz is the Redeemer, and since Ruth and Naomi have arrived back to Bethlehem. So we're going to talk about what does that mean as a kinsman redeemer, but we're going to use scriptures today. So the king's redeemer is responsible to buy a fellow Israelite out of slavery. So that is quite possible to be purchased, to sell yourself into slavery, but your kinsman can most definitely pay that debt and get you out. You will find that in Leviticus chapter 25. Actually, Leviticus chapter 25 has a lot of information about the Redeemer. So we're not going to be able to have the time to go through the entire chapter, but that is an important chapter to understand about the kinsman redeemer. We're just going to read verse, well, actually, it's 48 and 49. I'm going to start with 48. If a foreigner residing among you prospers, but your countryman dwell near him becomes destitute and sells himself to the foreigner or to a member of his clan, he retains the right of redemption after his after he has sold himself. One of his brothers may redeem him, either his uncle or cousin or any close relative from his clan may redeem him, or if he prosper, he may redeem himself. So again, you are able to be redeemed from slavery. And again, I'm telling you, Leviticus chapter 25, it goes into so much details about the kinsman. So the next one is the the kinsman redeemer has the responsibility to buy back the family land that have been fortified. And again, we're going to have to go through this in Ruth chapter 4 because it brings this up again. That's 25, Leviticus 25, verse 25. If thy brother be waxen poor and has sold away some of his possession, or if any of his kin come to redeem him, then shall he redeem that which his brother sold. And one thing you have to remember is that the promised land, the land that the children of Israel have, does not belong to them. That land belongs to Yehovah. He is allowing them to live on that land. So this is why they cannot sell their land and it be permanently sold to someone. This is why the instructions allow the people of Yehovah to redeem their land back. In some cases, not even having to pay for it to get it back. Jehovah's instructions is not like any other constitution in the world because he never left his people as a way of being poor. He always gave them a way of escape, a way of getting the land back because it didn't belong to the people. The land belonged to Yehovah, and he gave them a way to get their land back. And here's another way of getting to the instructions about the kinsman redeemer. See, the kinsman redeemer was also responsible to carrying the family name by marrying a childless widow. And you will find that all in Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 5 through 10. And again, that is a lot to go through. And some of it we will go through again in Ruth chapter 4, because in those areas, you're going to really get to understanding why the kinsman redeemer is doing what he's doing in chapter 4. So we have learned that the kinsman redeemer is responsible to bind a fellow Israelite out of slavery. He's responsible to buy back the family land that has been fortified. And he's also responsible to carry the family name by marrying a childless widow. So the kinsman Redeemer had a lot of responsibility that should have never been neglected, as we are finding out that it has been neglected for a while here in the book of Ruth. And so we are continuing to learn more, and we're going to verse number 6. And she went down unto the floor and did according to all her mother-in-law abade her. And when Boaz has eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of the corn. We know it means grain, not corn. And she came softly and covered his feet and laid her down. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, Who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thou handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thou handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. Okay, so now we are finding out a little bit more on Ruth have learned from Naomi. Ruth is following all those instructions. Ruth waited as Boaz had his meal, he had his drink, and then he goes lie down. Remember, Naomi was familiar with the process of what the men would do. She was a farmer's wife. She's aware of these processes and things they do. So while Naomi was in Moab for some time, things hasn't changed. It continues on because the instructions does not change. Jehovah's instructions, his constitution, remains the same from the beginning until the end. So Ruth uncovers his feet and wait. Boaz awakens, and there's this woman at the end by his feet trying to submit herself to him. And, I'm hoping that this covering is coming to mind. It's ringing a bell to you, especially those who join me on Tuesday nights for Torah studies. So, this is something that Yehovah spoke to the children of Israel as part of his marriage to them, because this is what Ruth is doing. So remember, spreading your skirt is claiming a person as their wife. This is what Ruth is doing. So I want you to go to Leviticus chapter 16. We will not be able to cover the entire chapter. We won't be able to cover the verses that we covered in Exodus today. But I just want to bring this to your attention. You can always go to Exodus and study along with us about that. So we're not going to read this in entirely, but I'm going to remind you of what Yehovah said about the children of Israel with the covering. Leviticus 16, verse 8. This is all we're going to read. Then I passed by and I saw you, and you were indeed old enough for love. So I spread my cloak over you and covered your nakedness. I pledged myself to you, entered into a covenant with you, and you became mine, declares Jehovah Elohim. So when we enter into the body of Messiah, when we become a believer, when we become um, grafted in, we're entering into a marriage. So remind yourself each and every day that you are a bride who's getting prepared for a husbandman. We're getting ourselves prepared for the marriage supper of the Lamb with Yeshua. You have to keep that in mind. We are the bride, the bride Messiah, the bride. So Ruth is taking this moment, waiting, bringing herself unto submission, bringing herself into a marriage covenant with Boaz because she knows, he knows that he is a kinsman redeemer. But as we continue on, we find out there's a small little issue. Verse 10. And he said unto her, and he said, Blessed be thou of Yehovah, my daughter, for thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, insomuch as thou followest not young men, which poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to thee all that thou requirest. For all the city of my people do it know thou art a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am thou near kinsman. How bad? There is a kinsman nearer than I. Tarry this night, and shall be in the morning that if he will perform unto thee the part of kinsman, well, let him do the kinsman part. But if he will not do the part of the kinsman to thee, then will I do part of the kinsman to thee. As Jehovah liveth, lie down until the morning. I must remind you again, we found out in chapter 2, during the early feast season, that Naomi recognized Boaz as a kinsman. I want to read that verse again because the timeline, what's going on and what's delaying, and understanding that people are not moving according to the word of Jehovah at times. Ruth 2 and 20. And Naomi said unto her daughter in law, Blessed be he of Jehovah who hath not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead, meaning her and her sons. And Naomi said unto her, The man is near of kin unto us, one of our next kinsmen. Boaz and the other kinsmen haven't said anything, nor done anything concerning their duty as the kinsman redeemers. So this is why he says to her, Ruth, you have not gone out to any other man, young, rich, or poor. She didn't even seek out a husband from anyone else. She was focused upon taking care of Naomi and, of course, taking care of herself. In other words, she maintained herself. And now she's following the instructions when he have not. That is why her latter days are kinder than the beginning. She stuck with the word of Jehovah again, being discipled by Naomi. Ruth is aware of the instructions, so she completed them. She did her part. She brought it to his attention, and she's ready to move on, being to be redeemed. Boaz is going to give the other kinsman an opportunity to step up. So if the other kinsman who is closer than he is step up, let it be. But if he doesn't, Boaz is willing to step up to to Ruth because she's a virtuous woman. Everyone in the community knows that this is a virtuous woman. And he wanted to keep it that way. So he continued to give her instructions so that she may remain that way. Verse 14. And she lied at his feet until the morning. And she rose up before one could know another. And he said, Let it not be known that a woman came into the floor. Also, he said, Bring the veil that thou hast upon thee and hold it. And when she held it, he measured 6 measures of barley and laid it upon her. And she went into the city. And when she came to her mother in law, she said, Who art thou, my daughter? Who's there? And she told her all that the man had done to her. And she said, These 6 measures of barley gave he me, for he said to me, go not empty until thy mother-in-law. So she's giving more information about the conversation that Boaz and that Ruth and Boaz had. Then said she, sit still, my daughter, until thou know how the matter will fall. For the man will not be in rest until he have finished this thing this day. So again, Boaz continues to give Ruth instructions to lay at his feet until the morning. And then he asks her to leave, make it not known that you were there. And then he gives her some barley into that veil that she had. Now, this verses are give information again about the conversation that he had about taking care of Naomi. Don't go empty-handed to her. So not only was he thinking about Ruth and respecting her virtuousness, but he also is thinking about Naomi. Naomi says to be still and watch because what he wants is going to happen. It's all going to be most definitely taken care of. And so this is what's important for us to understand that the word of Jehovah is going to be done. It is not going to come back void. What he sends it out to do, it most definitely will do. So I'm hoping that you'll learn something today, a little bit more about the kinsman redeemer, which we're going to go over more when we see each other on Saturday, on the Sabbath day at 10 o'clock a.m., as we are going to get to the final chapter of the book of Ruth. So there's more details about this kinsman redeemer, this brethren. I do encourage you when you go over the scriptures and stuff that I share with you that you would do some word study about the brethren and brother because most people think of just that related person, but it is going to if you look it up, it's H251. It is Alk. It's a brethren, it's family, it's kinsmen. It does not only um, settle for just the siblings. So it's kinsmen, it's brethren. So it's good to kind of look up these words as we study in the scripture to know what it means according to the chapter or the verse that you're in. So those things are important. Once again, I hope you enjoyed the biblical content. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you leave and share the link so other people can learn just as well as you are learning. May Yehovah bless you and keep you. May Yehovah shine his face on you and give you his favor. May Yehovah shine his face towards you and give you his peace in the name of Yeshua. And I'm hoping to see you on Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. as we are in Exodus chapter 3. Have a blessed rest of the week. Thank you.